Hello everyone, I'm Yadagiri Reddy and welcome to my channel HYR Tutorials. In this video, I will show you how you can handle the calendar controls using Selenium WebDriver. So first here we will look at the basics of the calendar control, then we will see how to handle the calendar controls. Okay, so what exactly these basics include? So first we will see what is a calendar control, and then we will see how many types of calendar controls are there and how these calendar controls are actually displayed on the web page, and in which scenarios we are going to use the calendar controls. So these are the basics, guys. Okay, so if you don't know these basics, right, so it's waste of time learning how to handle the calendar controls. So if you know what exactly a calendar control, then only go for the handling of calendar controls. Otherwise, first learn the basics, then go for the calendar controls handling. So maybe some of the people know already the basics of the calendar control, or some people don't know. So that is why I'm going to explain here again. So if you know the basics already, so you can just skip this part and you can jump into the handling of calendar controls. So here, first of all, what exactly a calendar control is? So a calendar control is an HTML control that will display a calendar for us. Okay, so you can select the date from that calendar. So it is going to display a calendar for us. So in which scenarios exactly we are going to display this calendar? So whenever you want to deal with date, you need to select the date, right? For example, I want to enter the date of birth here. So here I have multiple fields, right? So out of all these fields, one field is actually related to the date, that is date of birth. So I want to enter the date of birth here. So for example, without providing the calendar control, if I provide you a text box, what happens? You might enter any date. Okay, you might enter in the different format. Maybe the application is requiring in some specific format, but you are entering in the different format. So you may do some mistakes here, right? Because you don't know in which format you need to exactly enter. So that is why it will result in some errors. Okay, so to avoid all these things, right, what exactly developers will do? They will provide a calendar control inside the application. Okay, so they will show you one calendar control. So from that calendar control, you can select the date. Okay, you can visually select the date. So that means you are not going to do any mistakes basically. So you are going to select the date from the calendar. So everybody knows how to select the date from the calendar, right? So that is the main purpose. Developers are actually providing the calendar controls instead of text boxes. So how you need to open this calendar control? So here, some of the calendar controls, you can just click on the icon, and some of the calendar controls, you can directly click on the text box here. So when you click on that, by default, it will open the calendar for you. So in every machine, you will have a calendar. Okay, so that is your operating system provided calendar. But here, the HTML calendar will be displayed, guys. So this calendar, you can see here, it is having the month information and year information, and it is having the day information. So it is very easy to select, right? For example, I want to select June 5. So I can simply select the June 5th date here. So it is very, very easy, and it is error prone also. That means you cannot do any errors here because you are selecting the date from the calendar. So that is the main purpose. Developers are providing the calendar controls. So now you know what is a calendar control and how these are actually displayed in the web page. And you already know what are the advantages of the calendar control. Why we are actually using the calendar controls, right? So now how many types of calendar controls are there? So here we don't have a particular number, guys. Okay, we don't have a particular number for calendar controls. Why? Because whenever you open any calendar, so this is what exactly we are calling as calendar control. So if you change the UI of this one, then it will become another calendar control. So if you change, for example, instead of this, displaying the label here, if you provide the drop downs, then it will become another calendar control. So if you just click on this, it is displaying like this, right? So this will be another type of calendar control. So like this, n number of calendars will be available. So there is no particular number like only these many calendars are available. But I have listed few calendars here. Okay. So if you practice those calendars, most probably you will be, having a very good knowledge in handling any kind of calendar control. Okay. So those calendars I have provided inside this website, HYR Tutorials. So just open the website and go to the menu control. So here we have Selenium Practice. Mouse over on that and go to Calendars Practice. So if it is displaying any ads, just close the ad. Then you will land in this page, guys. Okay, Calendars Practice page. So here I have provided a couple of calendar controls with some differences. Okay, so if you are able to handle all these calendar controls, right, you are very good at calendar controls. Okay, you can handle any type of calendar control then. So what are these calendar controls? What are the differences? Let me quickly show you. Okay, so for example, if you open the first type of calendar control, here it is having the information of month and year in the top menu bar. Okay, and it also has a navigation controls to go to previous month and next month also. Okay, So that is the top menu bar. And here in the bottom bar, right, we have the day informations. Okay, so from 1 to 31 days we have, right? So in the May we have 31 days, so that is why it is displaying 31 days here. So that is the first calendar control. Okay, and the second calendar control is also similar to that one. So in the top menu bar, okay, you have the month information and you have the year information, and you have some navigation controls to go to previous and next month. And we have also the days information, which includes the previous month also. Okay, in the first calendar control only the current month details are there, but in the second calendar control you have the previous month information, current month information, and future month information also. That means next month information also. So all the boxes are actually filled here. So basically we may have 30 or 31 days, but there are some empty boxes here, right, in the first one. So these boxes are also filled with previous month and next month also. So in these type of calendars, how do you select the date? So that is also important, right? Because if I want to select the 30 date, will you select this 30 or will you select this 30? So I want to select the 30 inside the June month. So probably if I select this 30, right, it will be like May 30. You can see 530, that means May 30, right? So I should not select May 30. I want to select the June 30, okay? So that means only I need to identify this 30 date and I need to select this one. So that is another type of calendar. And next we have third type of calendar. So here, I mean, the first two types of calendars will be, repeated with little differences, guys. Okay. So in the third calendar, you can see, so for navigation purpose, you no need to click on this one only. Okay. You can directly jump on to whichever month you want to go using these drop downs. So the month and year information is displayed inside the drop downs here. So I can directly jump into September. From September, I can directly jump into January. From 2021, I can directly jump into 2030. So which is a very easy one, right? For example, if you want to select a future date after 10 years, so this type of calendar may be easy, okay? So, I mean, it's developer choice basically. It's not your choice, it's developer choice. So if the developer is providing you this calendar control, it's good. If the developer is providing the above type of calendar control, then also we should be able to handle future dates and previous dates. That also we will see, okay? So inside this third calendar, there is another variation that includes previous and future month also, right? So that is this one. So this is the fourth type of calendar. And then we have the fifth type of calendar, which has some dates disabled. Okay. So here, if you see, the previous days are disabled here from the current date. And it is enabled only next 10 days. From the current date, only next 10 days are enabled. After that, again, all the days are disabled. Okay. So in which scenarios we do have these kind of scenarios? So basically, if you consider a date of birth, so you cannot enter future date as date of birth, right? Even before the child is born, you cannot enter that date as date of birth. So that means that future date should be disabled in those scenarios. So maybe your calendar control has that kind of facility, okay? That kind of restriction maybe. And sometimes, your manager might give you some task and they might ask you to provide the finishing date. So if the manager is providing you the task today, you cannot provide the finishing date as yesterday, right? You can provide only today or maybe future date. That means all the previous days should be disabled. So these kind of scenarios also may come in your applications. So that is why I am providing one calendar control which has some previous days and some future days disabled. Okay, you can handle those scenarios also. And next we have sixth type of calendar. So here when you click on the text box, the calendar control will not be displayed. So when you click on the icon, then only the calendar control will be displayed. So when you click on the icon, the calendar control is displayed, right? So this calendar control can also be one of the above 5 calendar controls. Okay, the UI, anything, right? So these are some of the types of calendars that most widely used in any web application, guys. So you can pick any web application and you might see these kind of calendar controls. So if you are able to handle one calendar control properly, right, you can handle any type of calendar control. Why? Because the Selenium WebDriver doesn't provide you any direct way to handle the calendar controls. Okay, Selenium WebDriver doesn't recognize the calendar control directly, and it doesn't provide you any direct way. Okay, what exactly a direct way? So for example, if you have a drop down, so Selenium WebDriver is providing you a direct way to handle that, right? So you have a select class. Using the select class, you can directly handle this drop down. Okay, so for example, if you have a text box, if you want to enter the text into the text box, you have a send keys method, right? So that is again like direct way. So similarly, if you want to select a future date, or if you want to select the current date, or previous date from the calendar control, Selenium WebDriver is not directly providing a method, a single method kind of thing. Okay, So you have to implement the logics and make it work, guys. So I'm not saying you cannot handle the calendar controls. I'm saying you can handle it, but you have to implement your own logic. Okay. So let's see how we can do that and all. So these are the basics, guys. Okay, now you know what is a calendar control and how many types of calendar controls are there and how these calendar controls are displayed inside the web pages and in which scenarios we exactly use the calendar controls, right? So for example, if you want to enter the date of birth, or if you are dealing with any banking application, right, you might want to generate some statement. Okay, so when you are generating the statement, right, you need to select the from date and to date. So from which date to which date you want to generate the statement. So these things you need to select only from the calendar controls, right? So those days you need to select from the calendar controls. So here I'm showing you HDFC net banking example, but it can be any banking application, guys, because in every banking application you need to generate the statement, right? I mean, you have a feature to generate the statement, right? So that is the basics of calendar controls. So now let's handle the calendar controls. So here this course is divided into multiple sections, guys, basically. Okay, so I want to take it a baby step. Okay, so I want to show you in a step-by-step process, like how to select the date in the current month and how to select the past date and how to select the future date and how to validate the user input. So user might have given a wrong input also, right? So he might have given, February 31st, which is an invalid date. So we need to identify which is a valid date and which is an invalid date. That means we need to verify, right? So we need to verify the user input and then we need to perform the actions. And we will also see how to create a utility function. So for example, in your application, you have a calendar in 20 places. So in all 20 places, you cannot create the entire code, right? So you cannot write entire code to handle the calendar control. So in those scenarios, what you need to do, you need to create a utility function which can have the entire logic inside that. And you can simply call that utility function to select that date from that calendar control, right? So that also we will see. So first we will see how to validate the user input, which is the main important thing, right? So if you are not able to handle the user input, then it is waste of time, okay? Because maybe the user might provide, February 31st as the date. So in those scenarios, what happens if you are directly dealing these things, right? You might end up with some exception. So that is why it is very important to understand whether the user passed data is valid date or invalid date. So first we'll see that, then we will see how to select the current month and current year date. So okay, that means any date inside the current month, guys. Okay, so if I open June, so any date inside this June month. So that we will see, because here we are not clicking on the navigation buttons, so which is a easy task, right? So selecting the current month dates are easy task. So that we will see first. Then we will see how to select the past date and how to select the future date also. So first let's validate the date. So for validating the date, I don't require this code because I have just added this code, this code to open the browser and navigate to this website. So for validating, you don't require that. So first let me take the date into some string. In your application, this date may be coming from the Excel sheet or this may be coming from the database. So that depends on how you are actually maintaining the test data. So some people maintain the test data in the JSON files and some people maintain it in the Excel sheets and some people maintain it in the database also, right? So this may come from anywhere, but I'm just storing it inside the string. So at the end of the day, once you read that value, right, you need to store inside some variable. So I'm picking the string as the variable here. String as the data type here. Why? Because the date includes many parts, like it may be alphanumeric also, and it may include special characters also like hyphen and slash and these things also, right? So that is why I'm just picking the string instead of integer or long or anything. So I'll just name this one as target date because that is my target date which I want to select. So let me take any format, guys. Okay, you can take any format basically because there is no restriction, right? So you need to select only, you need to pass only in this format, like there is no restriction basically. I want to validate the date first, right? So I want to pass 29th of February in this month or 30 month, okay, 30 February, which is always a invalid in any year, okay, either it is a leap year or non-leap year. So I will mention something like this, 30 February 2021, which is the current year, okay. So you can mention like this, or you can mention complete month name also, February, or you can directly mention this code also like 02. February means 02, right? So that also you can mention. So I will show you guys, okay. So here I have just taken this format of data, but Java doesn't understand this one, right? So Java doesn't understand, okay, this is a date and which is available in this specific format. Java doesn't understand that, because a string can have any number of things. It can have my name also, right? So that is why Java doesn't know whether it is a date or whether it is a name or anything. So for that, what we need to do, we need to create one date format, and then we need to pass this date to the date format. So let me show you those things. Basically, this is like a Java logic, guys. Okay. So this is not coming from the Selenium WebDriver. If you know these things, right, well and good. If you don't know, just try to learn these things also. Okay. Because it is also very, very important. So we need to create one simple date format, guys. So simple date format instance I'm going to create. This is a Java class. So let me create the instance for this. So while creating, you need to pass some pattern. So which is the format. Okay. So how exactly you need to derive with the format? So you need to understand this date, whatever you are passing. Okay. So first you are passing the day information, right? So day means D. So here it is 2 digits actually. That means you need to pass 2 digits here, DD. Then you have hyphen. So after that you have month information. So this month information can be, 3 digits string value, or it can be entire month also. So if you consider the entire month, right, all the month will not be equal. Okay, like January maybe having 8 characters or 9 characters. June might have only 4 characters, right? So in those scenarios, how do you need to define? So that is why when you are writing the shortcut, right, you will always use only 3 characters. Even if it is January also, you need to you will just write it as Jan, right? So that's why we are going to pick the 3 characters only. Okay, when you are defining the month, right, you need to specify capital M. If you specify small m, right, then it will take it as minutes. So in the time we have minutes and hours, right? So it will pick it as minutes basically. Okay. And then hyphen. And next we have year. So year is actually 4 digits here. Okay. So let me just define y. Okay. So this is how you need to mention, guys. So if you have a single, 05 or something else, then you need to define a different date format. So for the date formats, you can check just in the Google, guys. Okay. But I have explained in a very clear way. So you can just write the date format like this. So once you define the date format, you need to pass this date. So you need to tell Java, convert my date using this format. Okay. So how do I do that? Target date format dot, we have a method called parse. So for this, you need to pass the date which you want to actually parse. So this is the date basically you want to parse. So once you pass the date, it will return a date object in the Java. So here it is date only, but it is actually in the form of a string. But Java doesn't know this string, right? So that is why when you pass that, it is going to create a date instance in the Java, guys. Okay. So that means Java knows what exactly that date is. Okay. So first let me add one thing here. Say formatted target date, just a name, meaningful name. So I need to import the date reference which is coming from the java.util. So when you see here, you have so many references you need to import, okay? But you need to import that is coming from the java.util. Don't import any other things, guys, okay? So let me import the java.util package. So now if I just try to print this one, right, I should get the value. So let me just print this formatted date. So which is actually Java formatted date. You can see, when I print, right, so you will understand that. So first let me run this. So here you can see it is actually displaying the date information, Tuesday, March 2 and the time. So I haven't provided any time. So that is why it is picking 000 and Indian Standard Time, because I am inside India and my system default time is set to India, and 2021 year. So here I have provided 30 February, but why it is displaying as March 2nd? So that is because there is a small setting, guys. Okay. So there is a small setting that you need to make. So if you don't make that setting, right, by default, what it will do, inside the 2021 year in February, it will calculate exactly how many days are there. Okay. So it will calculate those many days. Then after that days, for example, inside February, we have only 28 days, right? So how many days more are there? So we have 2 extra days here, right? So only 28 days are actually available inside the February 2021. But we have 2 more days. So those 2 days are actually shifted into next month. So after February, what is the next month? Next month is March. So that is why it is shifted to next month. But if you are doing like this, right, we will never identify whether it is a valid date or not. Okay. So that is why what we need to do, we need to create, we need to make that setting. So what exactly that setting is? So we have a method called setLenient. Okay, so we need to call that method on this date format. So because using this date format only, we are passing the date, right? So that is why we need to apply that method on this one. setLenient. So by default, it will have the value as true. So when the value is true, then it will shift those days into next month. You don't want to shift the days into the next month, right? So that means you need to pass the value as false. So in this scenario, what happens? If the value, if the date that you provided is an invalid date, then it will throw the exception for us. Okay, so let's identify. So here you can see there is an exception. So what it says, unparsable date 30 February 2021. Okay, so if I try to provide a valid date like 28 February, then it will accept it. So now you see the date is accepted. Okay, so when you are providing the invalid date, then only it will throw the exception for you. So let me just pass 32 January. So let me see whether it is a valid date or invalid date. So now you see it is saying it is an invalid date. Okay, but actually it is not saying as invalid date. The text is not coming, but it is saying unparsable date. Okay, that means we need to tell the user in a meaningful manner. So if you are saying just unparsable date, user might not understand exactly what exactly it is, right? So for that purpose, what we will do, we will just create this entire thing inside the try catch block. So let me just surround this with try catch block, and inside the cache, I will throw one exception, a custom exception, new exception. So the exception I'm going to throw with the message, guys, the custom message. So I will say invalid date is provided. Please check the input date. Just a meaningful date, meaningful message. So I need to throw this. So I'll just add throw here. So now you can see this is the exception that I'm throwing, a meaningful exception. So let me just keep this one inside this. So now if I just run this, you can see here it is giving some meaningful message, right? Invalid date is provided. Please check the input date. Okay. So now we are good. So we are able to, validate the date that is provided by the user, right? So the first step is completed. So once we validate the date, then you need to go further, right? So if you don't have any exception, then you need to go further. So how do you need to go further? So the next step that we need to implement here, okay? So that is select a date in the current year and current month. That means I'm not going to click on next or previous details here, okay? So this next or previous, these buttons I'm not going to click. So when I click on this one, right? So the current month is June, and I want to simply select the date from this June. So that first we will see, then we will see the past and future date. So it will be easy for us, right? So before that, what we will do, if you want to select any date, right, you need to have the day information, right? That means the date information, like it is 12 or 30 or 25th, like that, you need to have the day information, right? So for that, I need to arrive with the day information. So for that, this formatted target date, that means this date instance is providing some methods, guys, okay? So if you see get day, so it will get you the day, okay? So it will get you the week of the day basically. But I mean, if you use this method, right, so it says it is actually a deprecated method, okay? So the deprecated methods we should not actually use, right? So that is the reason we will just remove this, and we will use a different technique to handle this. So what is the technique? So first we need to create the calendar instance, guys, okay? Calendar. So I'll just name this one as calendar only. And we don't have to create new calendar here because it is actually a static class. So you can use calendar dot get instance method to get the current calendar instance, okay? So which will have, I mean, now this calendar has the current today's date, today's information, guys, okay? But I want to set this date, okay, that this formatted target date inside this calendar, right? Because I want to update this calendar. So currently the calendar is set to the current today's date, today time, but I may want to select a different date. So with that date, I want to set the calendar. So how do I set the calendar? So it's very easy. So first let me remove this out. Now it is not required for me, right? So I'll just add calendar dot set time. Okay, so now I need to set the time. So what is the time? So the time is nothing but the date instance here. Okay, so this date instance I need to set in here. And so there is one more thing, guys. So here, if I use the exception, right? So if I get any exception inside the other code also, I may get the same exception. So that is why I'll just use this parse exception. So that is the proper exception, right? So this is the exception basically. Yeah. So now we have set the calendar with the formatted target date. Okay. So now let me just change this one to June. So now I am providing the entire month name, guys. Okay. So that you will see, I mean, even though if you are using the 3 letters here, you will see the difference. So in the current month, I want to select 05 date. So or I want to select 5. So you can provide in any format. I'll just pass 05. So I want to select the 5th date inside the June. So here what we need to get? We need to get the day information, right? So that means the target day. Okay. So the target day I need to call on the calendar. So from the calendar only I can get the target day information. So here entire date is there. So you can use something like split operation also. And you can just, split this and you can pick the first one as day and the next one as month and the last one as, year. So that is also good. Okay. But why you need to do that like that? So it's not a recommended way, right? So you need to always, take the help of the Java classes. So that is a standard format, right? First, let's take this calendar instance. Dot, we have a method called get. So inside the get, we need to pass the integer field. So what exactly this integer field is? So we don't know. I mean, we need to ask, we want, day information. Okay. So when you say calendar.get, we are not specifying anything like, okay, I want day information or I want month information like that, right? So for that, we have a enum basically. Okay. So the enum name also calendar only. Calendar dot. So basically it's a class only, guys, not a enum basically. So inside the class only, we have some static fields basically. Okay. So which one you want actually? We want the day information. That means the date. Either it is 12th date or 05. In this case, 05 is the date, right? So this date is actually particular to this month. So that means I need to get the day of the month. Okay. So the day of the month I am getting like this. Fine. So similarly, I want to get the remaining things also. The remaining things, what are those? Target month. So the target month is calendar dot get. So inside this again, I need to call calendar dot month. So in next target year. So these are useful in future purpose, guys. Okay, I'll show you. Okay. So calendar dot get calendar dot year. Okay. So now we are good, right? So we have set the formatted date to the calendar instance and we got the target day, target month and target year also. Fine. First I want to open the browser, right? So I want to open the browser. That means I need to uncomment this code. So I need to open the browser and then here I am verifying the date. So if the date is actually valid, then only I am going to, parse the date and I'll just set it to the calendar and I'll continue with the rest of the process. If it is throwing any exception, we are catching it in the exception. Okay. So yeah, now what I need to do, I need to click on this calendar control. So to open that calendar, right? So once the calendar is opened, then only we can identify the elements on that calendar. So for that, first I need to identify the calendar. So to open the calendar, I need to click on this control, right? So on this, any of the text box, I need to first click. Then only the calendar will be displayed. Then I can select the date. So manually, that is what you are seeing, right? So when you click on the text box, the calendar control is displayed. Then you are selecting the date like 5 here. Okay. So that we will see how to do now. Fine. So first I need to select this. I need to click on the text box. So all the text boxes here have the IDs, guys. Okay. So don't worry about that. So let me just inspect this. So this is the second date picker I'm taking. Why? Because in the first date picker, I have less combinations. Okay. So I cannot show you this previous month and next month year informations also, right? So that is why I'm picking the second date control, which will have all the boundary conditions also, like previous month details and next month details also, so that I can create a XPath which can handle those things also. So let me just copy this and let me identify the element, driver.find element by ID. So we have the ID, right? Dot click. So when you click on that, it will open the calendar for us. So after it is opening the calendar, what we need to do? We need to select the date. Okay, we need to select the 5th date. First, let me inspect this 5th date. Okay, so let me see whether it is an anchor tag or not. Now it is an anchor tag, and this anchor tag has the text as 5, right? So it's not 05 guys, it's actually 5. So I need to identify this one, right? So how do I identify any anchor tag with the text? I need to write the XPath like /a text equal to 5, right? So this is how you will actually write the XPath. But this is actually a valid XPath. It's not an invalid XPath or anything. It is a valid XPath. But why we need to avoid this XPath? Why? Because if you try to provide here 30, so which date it is actually identifying? So it is identifying this 30 actually, right? So the 30 that is coming from the previous month, that is it is actually identifying. But I don't want to identify that 30, right? I want to identify June 30. So how do I do that? So for that we need to implement some logic here guys, okay? So what is that logic? So you need to first identify the difference between the previous month and current month and future month dates, okay? So if you can see the difference, right, then you can write the logic easily. So first let's identify the difference here. So if you see, this is the previous month details, right? So every anchor tag is present inside the TD. That means we have a table. So all these day informations are present inside one table, okay? So it is entirely inside the table, and table will have obviously T head and T body, and inside the T body we have table rows, and each row is having multiple table cells basically, okay? So here we need to identify the table cell, and inside the table cell we need to identify the anchor tag, right? So this TD is actually having a class, okay? So if you see, this class is actually divided into multiple classes guys. So whenever you see any space inside the class, right, that means it is multiple classes, not a single class, okay? So you can use any of these classes. That means, so here it is one class and this is another class basically, okay? That means this is having a 2 class names, okay? So if you look at this one, first class name is saying date picker dot weekend. So it doesn't matter whether it is a weekend or weekday or whatever it is, okay? So it doesn't matter to us, right? So that is why we should avoid this one, this class. So the next one, what we have, UI date picker other month. Yes, this is something meaningful, right? So it is saying UI date picker other month. That means this cell is actually denoting the other month date, okay? So let's, just we need to cross verify also, right? So we don't know for other cells also we have the same, information or not. So we need to cross verify. So for that, let me inspect any of the day inside the current month. So in this TD, we don't have any class name guys, okay? We don't have any class name. So you might be thinking, okay, why I need to pick that one? I can pick the class name empty, right? So no, you cannot pick this class name as empty. That is because, so if you have a current day, so today is 24th day, right? So if I select 24, right? So you can see the class name as today. So every time it might be different guys, okay? So for today's date, the class name will be different. That means for the other day inside the same month, the class name is different. That is actually empty. But for today's date, the class name is different. So that means I cannot use empty class name, right? I cannot use empty class name for identifying the days inside the current month. And even if you identify any of the weekday, right? So again, you have a, weekend class name here. So that means you cannot use the empty string here, okay? So, now you got some difference, right? So what is the difference? So for the current month details, right, you don't have the other month class name, okay? So for the current month details, you don't have other month class name. But here for 30, so where is the 30? So here the 30 is having the other month class name, okay? So this class name denotes that this date is actually coming from the other month, okay? So let's identify same for the future month also. So here also you can see we have a class name called date picker other month, okay? So if you can filter out the TDs, that means the table cells using this column and this class name, then we are good, right? So if you can eliminate all these class name table cells, then we are good. We will get only the current month details. Okay. So first I will show you how to pick only these other month details. Then I will show you how to remove those things. Okay. So let's take everything step by step, guys. So now let me remove this. I need to go to table. Okay. So it's always better to take the table reference, right? So it's always better to take the table reference and then identify these things as descendant of those table. So first let me take the table reference. So the table is this one, /table @class equal. This is the class name for the table. Okay. So now we got the table. So inside the table, these cells are actually descendants because the table has only two child, T head and T body. T body has again T rows as child, right? But I want to identify the table cells. That means this is a descendant. So no need to write the access method at descendant here. You can just use the shortcut, that is /. Okay. So now I want to find out the TD. So it is giving 35 TDs basically. Okay. With including previous month and current month and future month also. So now I want to apply one condition. Okay. So I want to first select the other month details. Then I need to eliminate those other month details so that I will get the current month details, guys. Okay. So if you know the XPath writing very well, right? So I no need to explain anything of these things. So now first let's identify only other month details. So I'm taking the partial class name text here. Okay. So that means I need to write contains. So I'm identifying with the class name, partial class name. So I'll just provide this class name. So I'm writing just a XPath, guys. So if you have the good knowledge on XPath, no need to worry at all. Okay. So if you don't have the knowledge on XPath, first try to learn the XPath. Okay. So now we got the 5 elements. So you see from the previous month, we are getting 30 and 31. And from the next month, we are getting 1, 2, 3. Okay. So let me just identify those things. So the first one is 30 and the next one is 31 and the next one is 1, 2, 3. So we are getting the other month details, right? So now what I need to do, I need to eliminate these things. I should not actually select these things. I need to eliminate these things. Then I will get the current month details, right? So which is actually a negative condition. So for negative condition, what we will use? We will use a not condition here. Okay. So I'll just put it like this. So when I use the not conditions, those other month details were removed and only current month details were actually available for us. Okay. So it is able to identify only the current month details. That is why it is showing 1 of 30. So inside this June, we have only 1 of 30. So if you go to July, right? So if you apply the same XPath, so you will get 1 of 31 because July has 31 days here. Okay. So this XPath is actually identifying the current month details. Fine. So out of these current month details, I want to select only one day with the anchor tag text, a single slash, because for TD, the anchor tag is child. So anchor tag, then text equaled. I'll just try to select 30 date, for example. Okay. So you see, now it is identifying current month 30 details. Previously, it was identifying the previous month 30, right? So this kind of XPath you need to always choose, guys. Okay. So let me put this one inside the code. So here also I will change the date to 30. Okay. So first I will show you with 30 and then we will see with 05 or something else. Okay. So here I need to identify the element and I need to click on that element, right? So once you click on this date picker, it will open the calendar for us. Then we need to click on that element. So driver.find element by XPath. So the XPath is this one, dot click. So here if you write like this, right, you are actually hard coding the value. But this 30 should actually come from the user input, that is target day. Okay. So this date is actually converted into Java date instance and we are reading the day information from that. So this target date we need to pass here, right? So how do I do that? So it's very easy. Just remove this one, put double quotes twice and then put ++ symbol. So between the ++ symbols, so in the middle of those ++ symbols, you need to provide the variable name. So it is very easy. I mean, it's just a concatenation, guys. Okay. So now the XPath is also became a dynamic one, right? So let me run this program and let's see whether it will select the date or not. Okay. So what I will do is I'll just give some thread.sleep here. So even if you don't give the thread.sleep also, it will work. Okay. It will work. But why I'm giving is, so once the calendar is opened, I want you to see that calendar. So I want you to see whether the calendar is opened or not. Okay. So that is why I'm giving some thread.sleep. So let me give some 3 seconds of time. Then it will select the date. Okay. So basically here, when I select the date, right? So let me select 13. So it will be in the form of MMYYDDD for, MMDD format. So first month information will be displayed, then day information. Okay. So don't get confused because of that. So let me run this. So if you understand this concept, right, guys, then we can move on to the select past and select future dates. Okay. So now you see calendar control is opened and it picked the 30 date also from that one, right? So it says 6/30. That means 6th month 30 date 2021 year, right? So that means the date is actually properly selected. Okay. So this is how you need to handle the calendar controls. Okay. So now it is very, very easy. So what are the things that you performed? So you just clicked on the text box to open the calendar control, and then you simply selected the date. So if you know how to write the XPath and all, right, it is very, very easy. If you don't know, then please learn the XPath. Okay. So it's just 2 steps only. So now it is easy because we are selecting the date inside the current month. Am I correct? So we are selecting the date inside the current month. So that is why we are not clicking on these buttons. So that is why it is very easy. So now we will see with another example also. Then we will move to the previous days or future date also. Okay. So instead of 30, I will select 01. Okay. Which is actually, if you open this one, 01 is present inside the future date also, right? So now we have seen one date which is available inside the previous month. And now let's see the date which is already available inside the future month also. But I want to actually select June 1. Okay. So let's see whether it will select or not. So this time I'm removing the thread.sleep. So I mean, first time anyway you have seen, right, whether the calendar is opened or not. So let me run this quickly. So these are like boundary checks, guys. Okay. We are doing some boundary checks. So now you see 6/1/2021. That means in June, first date is actually selected. That means it is not selecting the future month details. So in the previous example we have seen, it is not selecting the previous month details, and here it is not selecting the next month details. So in every scenario, it is actually selecting the current month details only. So that is well and good. So let me select any other date like 5. So let me just quickly run this. So this 5 is not present inside previous month or not present inside the next month also. Okay. So now you see 6/5/2021. That means June 5th is selected basically. So that is also very correct. So now if you open this one, so we have validated the date and we have selected the date in the current year and current month. So these 2 points are actually completed. And what is the next one? That is the past date, selection of past date or selection of future date. So if you see this one, this is very easy. And after that, this is very easy. And now we will just increase the difficulty level. So we will increase a little bit of difficulty level and we will go to selection of past and future dates also. So how do you identify whether the date is past date or not? So for example, my target date is, let's say my target date is February 25, 2022. Okay. And my actual date, what is the actual date? So basically the actual date here is June 24, 2021. So here if you consider, so which one is actually higher? My target date is higher. That means it is a future date. So when you compare this one with this one, you will identify easily, right? So when you compare with the current, that means the actual date, you will identify whether this is a future date or whether this is a previous date. So if you provide 2012, that means this is a previous date, right? That means the past date. So first we need to identify the date, and then we need to perform the comparison operation here, right? So when you provide the comparison, then only we will understand whether that is a past date or not, right? So how do we do the comparison here? So for performing the comparison, we need to get the actual date also, right? So how do you get the actual date? So when you open any calendar, the actual date that is displayed here, right? So it is not entire information. So the date information is not completely provided, but month and year information is presently, it is displayed here, right? So we need to get this information. So how do you get there? So let's just inspect this. So basically this month information is present inside one span and year information is present inside one span. So you can pick, you can write the logic to get both the details and combine that, or you can directly use the class name of this div. So when you use the class name of this div and get the text right, you will get exactly this text. So let's use this class name. So I'll just quickly comment this. Okay. So now I need to identify, I need to get the details of those things, right? Driver.findElement by class name. So the class name is this one. Dot, you don't need to click on that, you need to get the text of that, right? So I'm just using get text operation. So this operation we need to perform first, then only the calendar will be opened, otherwise it will not be opened, right? So I'll just provide it here, maybe. Okay, so now the calendar is opened and trying to get the text of that calendar. Then I need to store the text inside something, right? So I will say actual date. Okay, so this is the actual date. So the actual date comes like this, June 2021. Okay, so now this is again a different format. So just like how we have provided the date format here and converted, so in the similar way for this actual date also we need to provide the date format. Fine. So let me just do it in the single line. So how do I do that in the single line? So this is the statement that we are actually executing, right, for setting the time into the calendar. So I'll just write that statement. So I need to get the date. From where I can get the date? So when I pass the date, then only I can get the date. So for passing the date, I need to specify the timestamp, right? So let's write the first timestamp. So what is the timestamp? The simple date format here. So this is month information, then space and year information. Okay. So that means MMM space YYYY, right? So this will be my date format, and on top of this I will call the parse method. Then I will pass this actual date to that one. Okay, and after that I need to I need to set that one inside the calendar. That is fine, right? So now from this again I need to get the actual day. Anyway you don't have the day information here because it is only month and year information. So I need to get the actual month and actual year. Then only I can create the conditions, right? So then only I can create the conditions like whether this is less than that or not. Okay. So let's quickly get those things. So I'll just copy these two things, guys. Okay. So just to save the time, and I'll rename this thing to actual. So other than that, we are getting the month and year information here. So now I need to create the condition to verify whether this date is actually less than the target date or not. Okay. So for that, I'm going to use the while condition here. Why do you need to use the while condition? If you use the if condition, it will execute only once, guys. Okay. But maybe my target date. So in this scenario, if you see, I want to go to 2012 February. So which is actually a very far, right? So from today's date, so today's date is actually 2021 June. So from this is very far. Okay. So you need to perform this previous click operation multiple times. Okay. Minimize this. Okay. So this previous operation you need to perform multiple times. Then only you will go to the month correctly, right? So once you go to that February month, you can select the date simply. Okay. So we have seen how to select the date. So when you are already inside the correct month, right? We know how to select the date. Now we need to know how to go to that month. Okay. So we are clicking on that previous button multiple times based on, until the condition is actually satisfied. So that is why I will use the while condition here, not if condition. Okay, while loop basically. So until the condition is not satisfied, it will be executing. Okay. So first I need to handle the past date scenarios, right? So past date means what? If your target date is less than the actual date, then that is considered as past date, right? So let's implement that. So target month. So if your target month is less than actual month, okay, or if your target year is less than actual year, am I correct? Actual year, then we consider this as a past date. Okay, so if you consider it as a past date, what you need to do? You need to click on the previous button here. So let's identify this one. So if you look at this is actually an anchor tag, and we don't have any ID for this, but we have a class which has a one class name that says previous. So I can just use this one. So let me just verify whether this is unique or not. So it says 1 of 1, that means it is unique. So I can use this. So driver dot find element by class name. So I will provide this class name. So I'll simply need to click on that, right? So that is my click operation on the previous. So it will keep on clicking on that. That is well and good. But every time when it click on the previous button, the actual month is going to change. Am I correct? So how it is changed? Okay, so let me just close this. So how it is changed? So for example, here if you see this, so currently I am inside the June, but I want to actually go to February 2012. So I'll click on the this previous button by comparing with this value. So once I click on this, these details are actually changed. Okay. So based on these details only, I am actually clicking on the previous button, right? So these details are actually changed. So I need to read these details again in my code. Otherwise, I'll always compare with the June information only. Am I correct? So that is why I need to read this information again. When after the click operation, after the previous click operation, I need to read those details again. So that means these things I need to execute again. So let me copy it and paste it here. So if you paste it, it is going to show you definitely a warning because we have already used the variable names here and you cannot use the same variables names again. We don't need to define a new variable. We need to just override the value of these variables actually, right? So let's remove these data types. So we are not defining here, we are just utilizing those things. So once you do this, right, what happens? Once it clicked on the previous button, so it will try to get the actual details from there. Okay, so it will be May. Then it will be again converted and it will set into these variables. And next time when the while condition is actually verified, we are verifying with the May month information. Okay, not with the June month information. So again, next it will click on the previous button. So next we are reading this information. That means we are in the April, right? So when we read this information, we are in the April. So those details are set here. And when you are verifying the while condition, you are verifying with the April, not with the June, right? So that is what we want to actually implement. So once we do these things, so when this condition will be, not satisfied, when you are in the current month, current year, that means, for example, you want to select February. So February 2012, right? So until you reach February 2012, you will keep on clicking on the previous button. Okay. So when you go to 2012 February month, you will not click on the previous button because this while loop will be dissatisfied. Then you can come out. So once you come out, then you need to actually select the date. Am I correct? So let me just execute this and let me change this one to 2012. So let's execute this. So which is actually easy topic, guys. Okay. But if you don't understand the logics, it will become very difficult for you to understand. So now you see it is clicking on the previous button continuously, right? So until it reaches February 2012, it will keep on clicking on that button. Okay. So now you see February 2012 is actually reached. Then it selected the date inside that one. 02/05/2012. So if you click on that, you can see the date is selected as 5 in the February. So that is what I want to select actually, right? So that is how you need to dynamically select the past date. Okay. So here I can select any date. So we have actually selected the date which is actually 9 years previous date. So similarly we will select the date which is 10 years in future. So 10 years in future, like let's take 2031. Okay, so 2021 is the current year, right? So let's take 2031. So for that we need to again implement the logic, right? So we need to just reverse this logic. So here we are verifying with the less than condition. So if you want to verify with the future date, you need to just use the greater than condition. Am I correct? So here let's replace these things with greater than. So if your target month is greater than and if your target year is greater than, then you need to click on the next button, not the previous button, right? So first let's inspect the next button also, and let's see whether that is also having any ID or not. So this is also having the class. So let's copy this class and let's see whether it is unique. So it is unique, 1 of 1. So let me go here and change this one. And the next information is same. Once you click on the next, you need to read the actual information and again parse it and then set it, and again same way. This loop will be keep on running. So nothing else you need to change, guys. So let's just execute this. So now I am asking it to select in the 2031 year, which is very far, right? So now you can see it is clicking on the next button now, right? So it is going to 2026 and 27 and 2028, 2029, 2030 and 2031. So in 2031 in February, 5th date is selected. So that means a future date. Okay. So dynamically I am able to select the previous date and future date also. Am I correct? So now you understand how to select the previous date and how to select the current month date and how to select the future date also, right? So let's make this one as a library, because we are not going to write the entire thing in every place, right? So that is why I need to create this one as a library. So let's copy this entire thing. Basically, let's cut this entire thing and let's create a library here inside the same class. But in your application, you can create it under one utilities class or something. So which can be accessed in all the classes. Let's make this method as static, because I want to call this method inside this main method. So I don't want to create the object again. So I'll just make it as static. And I'll say select date, a simple meaningful name. Okay. So I'll say it as select date, and let's just copy paste that code, whatever we have copied. And let's understand what are the inputs that you need to pass to this method. So usually this requires a driver instance, right? So driver instance to click on the previous button, and driver instance to click on the next button and to read the information, which month is actually selected. So for that also you need the driver instance. So let's add one driver instance here. WebDriver driver. Am I correct? So after that, you need the target date also. Okay. So this is also coming from the user. String target date, and then you need to pass the target date format also. So if you are specifying the format inside this, you don't know in which place you are passing the which format basically. So whenever you are passing the date, immediately you need to specify what format it is actually. Okay. Simply I will say date format. Okay. It is actually a string value. So string date format. So now let's remove this value. So because the target date is coming from the end user. So in the date format also, instead of this hard coded value, I need to specify this one. And after that, I need to move this one out of this. So otherwise what happens? Every time it will try to click on the second date picker only, right? So I need to move this one out of this. Am I correct? So now if you see this, it is very good. So we are creating the calendar instance, and first we are validating the date, whether the input date is valid date or invalid date, and then we are getting the information and we are identifying whether that is a current month date or whether it is a previous month date or whether it is a future date. So based on that, it will click on that and it will execute. So now let me call this function here. Very simple. So let me pass the variables driver, and the date I want to select as for example 05, So let's use some other format. So previously we have used this hyphen, right? So now let's use slash and February, then 2021. Okay. So in February 2021, I want to select February 5, which is actually a previous date. Okay. And then I need to specify the date format. So now let me just copy this and do with 3 dates. Okay. So first I will do with current date. So current month date basically. So that means I need to select June. Okay. So after that I will give some thread dot sleep, guys. Okay. I will give some thread dot sleep of 5 seconds because on the same instance I am trying to perform other operations also. On the same control I am trying to perform the operations, right? So that is why. So after that, after some thread dot sleep, I will select the past date and I will select the future date also. For the future date I will make this one as 2023, so which is the future date. So here I am selecting the current month current date, and here I am selecting the past date, and here I am selecting the future date. So let me just change the month here and day to 15. Okay. So let's execute this one, and I need to give some thread dot sleep here also. So we are doing all the boundary checks, guys. Okay. So we are checking whether it is able to select the current date, date inside the current month or not. And we are verifying whether it is able to select the previous date and future date also. Okay. So current month date and previous date and future date. So let's quickly execute this. So now if you see 6/05/2021, that means it is a current month date. Okay. So it is particularly selected. Next it is selected 2021-05, 2/05/2021. That is actually a previous date. So now it is actually selected the future date. Okay. So all the 3 combinations are perfectly working. So I did not touch my code at all, right? So I did not touch my code at all. Okay. So for 2023 one logic, for 2024 one logic, for February one logic, for March one logic, like that I did not write. Okay. If you go to any of the video in YouTube, right? Many of the YouTubers actually explain like that. So if it is February, how you need to handle. If it is March, how you need to handle, like that. So it should not be like that, guys. It should be always dynamic. So whatever the date you provide, so provide the date format also along with that. And it should internally identify whether that is a previous date or future date or current date. So everything it has to identify, and it has to simply click on that date. So that's it, guys. Now you learned how to select the date in the current month, and now you learned how to select the date in the past and how to select the date in the future. And we have also seen how to create a utility function also, right? So all the 5 points we have discussed clearly. So if you go in this way, right, it is very easy. But if you directly jump to the past and future date, so if I directly start writing these conditions, you will get confusion. Okay. So you will get a confusion like why this guy is writing all this nonsense, right? So that is why I have shown this step-by-step process. Okay. So I hope you enjoy this video, guys. So I hope this is very explanatory and very useful for you. So if you like the video, please hit the like button and also share this with your friends. So, and also if you have a doubt anywhere in this video, right, please let me know in the comment section below. So that is for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.